Welcome in and gather round everyone to Total War Warhammer 3 and the return of our narrative campaigns. Boris Ursus has been revived rather thematically to lead this story campaign. For any who haven't seen our Cetra, Boris, or Orion series, I'll be playing through a campaign thematically and weaving a story using cutscenes, cinematic battles, and some pop-in decision explanations for things like research and city growth. We will be running several mods for this series. The Old World modded map is going to take the Old World section of the map and flesh things out a ton. Best way to describe it is to just show you this magnificent map. Glorious and massive, and will hopefully lead to a incredibly fun and thematic defense of Kislev proper, as we'll have a lot more land to cover. I'm also calling on all of you for help. I'd love to weave in any characters, themed armies, and unit names you'd like to see in our story. Leave those suggestions here in the comments of the first episode to make it easy for me to track down. Last thing I'm going to mention here is that these narrative campaigns they're a ton of work to create, as I do all of the cutscenes, cinematic battles, script work, voice acting, and editing, all myself here. So if you enjoy the video, leaving a like for the Light God and a sub for the Sub Throne would go a very, very long ways towards helping the channel out, and letting me know if narrative content is something you'd like to see more of. With all that out of the way, we'll go over our faction, settings, and dive right into our tale.
The motherland has turned her back on us. Exiled to a wasted land. Brothers and sisters betrayed. Whilst the meek cling to power. Is it just? To be the bulwark the world relies on? Does it make us weak? To witness endless loss? Do we falter? Molded by it. Forged hot against an anvil of ice. Rage consumes us. But from the fire, we rise again.
Alright, and before we throw you into the story itself, we will jump into the actual faction effects, and then the settings we're using for this narrative campaign. So of course, we are here with Boris. His starting army is going to be 2 sets of armored Kossars, 2 Tzar Guard, and 2 Warbear Riders. So we are very Hammer and Anvil focused for the beginning here. And before I actually jump into the faction effects, I will give a very, very brief rant. Before Boris was... I'm sorry, is this a Kylus? What on earth? Either way, before, Boris was only unlockable after you have done something in campaign, where once you're playing as Zarina Katerin or Gestalten, I'm sure you can do it with Astankia as well, but she came in way later. But playing as 2 of the original campaign factions, you are meant to capture all 3 of the main cities, and I think once you hit a certain level as well with them, there will then be given a quest battle to free the Red Tzar, face against a group of, I think, Tzeentch sorcerers. And then you are going to try to free the Red Tzar from the true ice he is trapped in. Once you do, he joins your faction, and then he unlocks on to actually play his campaign on map, which I thought was fantastic. I do miss the days where you have unlockable factions in the campaign. That's just a little small aside. I know he's like, oh, I want to play Boris. Well, maybe then get good and win as Zarina Cadwin or Gestalton. Anyway, with that elitism out of the way, faction effects. Settlements in the Chaos Wasteland climates are going to gain additional devotion, which is going to be amazing for our invocations and for nullifying any of the Chaotic Wasteland effects, since Kislev can now do that once you hit 100 devotion, which is great. I will have diplomatic relations plus 30 with the faction of the Ice Court. This will be my last kind of bit of rant. I wish this should be 60 with the Ice Court and then 30 with the Orthodoxy, because Boris is meant to be the bridge between the two, and obviously he's going to have better relations with his daughter. They don't have kind of any estrangement before he runs off and falls honorably in combat with the, I think it's the Tong tribe. I've got it in the script, but before he goes off and falls above the River Linsk. So it would make more sense that she has higher relations, and then he actually has good ones with the Orthodoxy as well, since he is the Tzar of Tsars. He would be the one unifying Kislev, but that's neither here nor there. We also have extra campaign movement range plus 5%, which is fantastic, because on the old world map, cities tend to be very far apart, more than a single turn. We'll have to be a little bit more tactical, and this movement range will go a long ways towards helping. We'll have a construction cost reduction for all of our garrison and religion buildings, which is fantastic for keeping them protected and keeping corruption down. We'll have construction time reduction for provincial capital and settlement buildings, so we can build up much quicker. I will have more recruit rank for Warbear Rider units, which means a tide of very elite Bear Brothers. For Boris himself, we have less upkeep for Warbear Riders. Like I said, we'll have just an absolute ton of them. I'm not going to have it just a doom stack. We are playing a narrative campaign, so we are going to have a thematic army, but there will be lots of Warbear Riders in it. We'll have additional leadership when facing off against the Chaotic factions, extra melee attack when facing off against the Chaotic factions, and then immunity to Chaos Corruption and Chaos Waste. So Boris can travel around in the wastes without losing any soldiers, because he is the avatar of Ursun itself. So, fantastic. For the map, we start in the middle of Norska, which will mean we are completely surrounded by enemies on all sides, but if we push one direction, we can actually get in contact with Gestalton and the rest of the Kislevites, and hopefully reunite that way. For our campaign settings, we are playing on very hard difficulty. We are playing with the in-game scenarios on. I actually have them bumped up a little bit in difficulty, up to 175. We will have a 7 turns early warning, because 7 is the lucky number. We have turn range time, so it's going to happen a little bit earlier than normal at turn 70 to turn 100. We'll see. So we are going to set as a series of goals that are custom, because Victory Conditions Overhaul mod does not work for this one. So we'll set our own custom goals, which I'll let you all know. I've got a list of them here. I'm just going to go grab a notebook. But we'll set those, and once we complete those, we will consider the campaign finished. But if we do not complete them before the endgame crisis kicks off, which is why I've tried to set it to a little bit earlier, because we really haven't had to deal with the crisis ever on this channel. So we'll deal with it here with Boris, which should be a lot of fun. So I have the Black Pyramid on, the Biggest Wa, Vampiric Ascension, Vermintide, and Will of Hashut. So basically all of the evil and neutral crises set on. I like to not have all of our allies turn against us. We're going to try to be good buddies with everyone that is of order alignment, since we're the bulwark, and they can all be added to our shield wall. For the battle, we've only changed the AI stats modifier down to neutral. I don't want to have any kind of weird unit identity issues where, so say if we have a unit of Kislevite Kossars fighting against another unit of Kossars, those axes in combat, that should be a 50-50 chance as to who's going to win, unless you're throwing in more kind of tactics. So we want things to be normal. I don't want the AI cheating. That's basically, long and short of it, no cheats for the AI. Alright, so the goals, let me grab this notebook. Yoink. The goals we are going to set for ourselves for this campaign are going to be to reestablish Kislev's borders, which we will, I will see if I can find a map of the old borders of Kislev, and I'll have that in the intro. Our other goals are going to be to eliminate the prince, the demon prince Yuri, eliminate Archaon, Scarbrand, Kolek, and Be'lakor, all because they are either the biggest bads of Kislev, or of Kislev's greatest enemies, or because they have done something so it's like Kolek kicks over the walls of Prague. We've got a grudge that goes in the Great Book of Grudges, and Kolek is going to be smited for that. Boris is well aware that you can't wipe out Chaos completely, but if you take out all of the big champions, Chaos then just kind of flounders and goes back to killing each other in the north, which is completely fine. And then lastly, our goal is going to be forging a lasting and strong alliance with the Empire, the Dwarfs, and then the Elves, if we can come into contact with them. The Elves do tend to be a little bit more suspicious of man, but Boris and the other Kislevites are happy to make friends with anyone who hates Chaos, so we are going to try to make strong alliances with all. The main two goals are going to be the Empire of Man, and we're going to try to keep the Empire intact since we are the Bulwark, and then the Dwarfs. But the Dwarfs sometimes crumble from within, so we'll see how that goes. With all that out of the way, let's dive on into the story. Thanks for listening. Kislev. Many southern folk know the name, claim to know our people. A rough and backward folk from the north. Little more than barbarians who huddle in our stronghold cities drinking and fighting amongst ourselves. But they know nothing of our struggle, of the darkness kept at bay by the blood of Kislevite men and women, of the slow, steady destruction of all. Kislev is losing the eternal war. The Orthodoxy would frown on my saying so, but it is the truth. More boyars fall to the influence of the dark gods each new winter, rotting away our impenetrable bulwark. Even Yuri, rumored beloved of the Ice Queen Catherine, has betrayed the motherland and reportedly leads legions of demons in the far north. While the fledgling's arena is undoubtedly powerful, feats of ice magic have been demonstrated that shame all witches before, yet has only recently been able to fully embody the role of Con Queen her people so sorely need in this time of invasion. So a rift yet remains between her ice court in the capital city of Kislev and the great orthodoxy founded by Boris Boka himself, and currently led by Kostaltin, their supreme patriarch. Kostaltin is the only man in all of Kislev to openly speak against the queen and live, and this alone should tell you he is more than his ragged, fanatic appearance would suggest. But Kostaltin is a tale for another time. The orthodoxy itself was created to unify the shamanistic thoughts of Kislev into one authority, the idea being to codify belief and prevent chaos infiltration. Worship of Ursun, the bear god of tenacity and strength, Daj, god of fire, craftsman and prosperity, Thor, god of storms and battle, and Lady Salya, goddess of healing and mercy, were codified and great cathedrals were built to centralize and protect the now orthodoxy faithful. This brings us now to Boris himself, our Red Tzar, son of Vladimir Boka, founder of the orthodoxy, supreme patriarch of Ursun's cult, and the first to gain the blessing of Ursun in over 400 years. This blessing being the bond between himself and a massive bear called Urskin, forged in a battle for survival against a starving pack of wolves. From there, Tsar Boris emptied the treasuries to hire mercenaries, retrain and modernize the haggard Kislevite military, import black powder from the Southern Empire and dwarves, and rebuild the towns and infrastructure destroyed by the legions of chaos and hordes of destruction in their countless invasions. It seemed as though Boris would lead Kislev into a golden age, until the Kurgan arrived. A force of northern tribesmen larger than had been seen for generations. Boris and Urskin led the brave warriors of Kislev into battle, just north of the river Linsk, deep in Troll country. Here a titanic clash between savage north and stalwart motherland would take place. Warriors on both sides would die in the thousands upon the snowy fields, and as Boris led his most fearsome guard in an armor-shattering charge, Red Tzar was cut off from the main force and surrounded by champions of the Kurgan, all eager to claim his skull as a worthy prize. Boris's guard fell quickly under the onslaught, and even though Urskin and Boris fought with all of the fury of Ursun himself, they could not hope to find victory under such odds. Urskin was able to batter his way free of the melee and carry the now mortally wounded Tsar back to his army. Upon seeing their Tsar return, the Kislevites fought on with renewed fury, driving the Kurgan back into the wastes. Only once the battle had been won did Radi Boka slump from Urskin's back and breathe his last. His faithful partner roared in mourning for a full night, letting none approach the fallen Tsar, before they both had vanished by the morning. While that might have been the end for any normal man, the Red Tsar was anything but, and Ursun would need his champion once more. 7 years ago, Ursun the Bear God ceased his mighty roar that broke the winter snows, and allowed warmer seasons to begin. As the snows fell unending, the young Tsarina Catherine sent an expeditionary force led by Yuri Barkov, Prince of Kislev. misled and corrupted by chaos, Yuri became the executioner for the one he ventured so far and fought so hard to rescue, firing a chaos-infused bullet into the bear's heart. The resulting explosion of power critically wounded Yuri, who reportedly then offered his soul to the gods of chaos in return for his own life, becoming a demon prince himself. This, though, was not to be the end for the bear, as Boris's daughter Catherine fought her way deep into the Forge of Souls, where the god was being kept, and through the devotion of the people of Kislev, Ursus was revived, and his roar finally broke winter for the beleaguered people of Kislev. If you sit for a drink at any of the taverns out on the northernmost oblasts, you'll hear tales of the farmers and Kossars. Tales that Boris Boka yet lives. Revived alongside the bear god, the Red Tzar now reportedly gathers the bravest sons and daughters of all Kislev, northwest of the Troll country, intent on finally driving out chaos and reclaiming all the north for the motherland. And welcome on in everyone to our narrative campaign. I'm going to pop on in and give you all kind of a starting overview of what we have to work with here on the old world mod. If we kind of zoom on out, we can see we've got the Forest of Knives, which I have renamed to the Forest of Ursus. We've got the Bay of Blades beneath us. We're actually starting where kind of Azazel probably would over on the normal campaign. So he might even still be over here. I have not played the old world enough. If you have any kind of tips, tricks for the old world, please leave those in the comments. I could definitely use them. All the help we can get. So we are here in the Forest of Ursus, which is one of the many magical forests. So we have access to just the village that goes up to a normal council city over time. And then we start with the Kossar huts. We get in some Kossar with spears, which is not quite nice. We don't have any of the crazy Kislevite buildings here, which is something we will need to worry about. So we are going to want to send at least one army to kind of push towards Kislev proper. But with the newly reworked Orthodoxy buildings and Ice Court buildings, we should be good to at least get some more growth and some proper support going. So in terms of our support, we are going to be pushing in this campaign towards the Chaos Breaker trait here in the Old Foes category as quickly as we can. So it's going to take Orthodoxy points, so we need to build up the Great Orthodoxy and the Ice Court both. But we are going to focus on the Orthodoxy for the start here, because first we get Duty's Reward, which will grant us more campaign movement range after winning a battle, and then more experience by 100% when facing off against the forces of chaos. This is insane. And then it gets even better with Chaos Breaker, which will give us the army spell Thorsten's Thunderstorm when fighting against any of the forces of chaos. This is one use of a Cataclysm spell. It's not one per turn, it is one per battle, as long as you're facing off against one of the many forces of chaos. That is the Demons of Chaos, the Norskins, the Beastmen. I don't know if the Skaven counts. Well, we can find out here together. And then, of course, the Warriors of Chaos. So, yeah, no, we want to focus as quickly as we can to get this Cataclysm spell. As far as our Ice Court boons go, I'll have to give it a little bit more of a look, and I'll let you all know when we decide there. We will begin our technology here with some simple convalescence for growth and replenishment rate.
Ursun sends us a gift.
Absolutely. We have access to no Ice Court training off the start, fair enough. Alright then.
I live again.
Before we jump into the next cutscene, I will show off the short and long campaign victory conditions here. I will see exactly if we're going to go for these. They may end up not being fully thematic for us, so if you actually have any thematic goals, I'm going to be thinking those up for the next campaign here. But for now, we've got Destroy the Ecstatic Legions and Wintertooth, so that means that Azazel is likely right over there, which, lovely, Azazel should be our first enemy this time. And then for the long victory campaign, actually for winning, we get more hero capacity for all hero types. So that is Ice Witches and Patriarchs. Huh. I mean, that's not the most exciting. And then we've got the long campaign victory going for the short victory, of course, and then Occupy, Loot, Raise, or Sack 70 settlements, destroy the Legion of Chaos, Exiles of Khorne, and Puppets of Misrule, which means they are probably also up here in the north. And at that point, we'll gain 10 additional recruit rank for all of our heroes, making them very elite. Domination is, of course, Occupy, Loot, Raise, or Sack 272 different settlements, and at that point you win no matter what. We also have this By Order of the Tzar commandment, which will give us more devotion, corruption, and drop our income by 33%, but then also give us 15% more ward save for all of our armies in the province when facing off against the Warriors of Chaos, which that's 15% ward save is incredible. So we might just go for that right off the bat here. Since nothing else is giving us anything other than maybe 4 devotion, I'm thinking 10 devotion is the best. Although this is only going to be when we're facing off against enemies inside of the forest person. But that's 10 devotion for a cost of just 33% income. I'm here for it. Upon arriving in the ramshackle but well-organized camp, I was quickly accosted by a patriarch of the Tsar's forces, thinking I was a spy sent by the nearby Sarl tribesmen. After proving my undying loyalty to Kislev, the man introduced himself as Urkulisk, eldest of the patriarchs dedicated to Ursun. He had apparently been the very patriarch to anoint the Red Tzar as the head of Ursun's cult many years prior. After learning of Boris's return, Urkulisk was the first to gather the old guard and march north to join his liege. There were 2 regiments of Tsar guard clad in heavy lamellar plate and wielding wicked scimitars. They were called the Shields of the Tsar and the Red Guard. 2 professional regiments of armored Kossars joined them, hefting thick heater shields, sturdy axes, and a black powder pistol imported from the Empire. They were known as the Axes of Erengrad and Axes of Ursun, and each unit had already formed a friendly rivalry with the other, competing darkly for kills in battle. Lastly, and most impressive, were the War Bear Riders, true sons of Ursun that had received the Father Bear's blessing, and were permitted to ride one of his mighty children into battle. These were Boris's companion cavalry, his most trusted and elite warriors, and the hammer to shatter the spine of any chaos hosts in the frigid north. 2 famous regiments traveled with us: Boris's Revenge, survivors of the fateful battle on River Linsk, and the very first to join Urkulisk on his journey to find the Tsar, and the Claws of Winter, a relatively new unit that had distinguished themselves helping Kostaltin defend Erengrad, the largest port in Kislev, from a recent undead outbreak. We were a small but elite force, tip of the spear that would lead all Kislev to glory. The men were quite eager to taste battle. The anticipation of driving Sarl dogs from territory that belonged to Kislev in ancient times had risen to a zealous fervor, ready to be unleashed. And as luck would have it, a host of Sarl had taken notice and had already marched out to meet them. The pool of fresh blood to spill and souls to claim for the Dark Masters had melted what little sense the Northmen possessed, for they marched to their doom. With a quick bark of command, battle was nearly at hand. Alright, and I return to you all in my non-accented form. Welcome, welcome. We've got our Axes of Erengrad, we've got our Tsar Guard, we've got our Warbearer Riders out front, and of course Boris himself. This is going to be a slaughter. Let's get it started. So we basically are just going to deploy in our typical, where I have the Shields of the Tsar and the other Tsar Guard up front, with the Warbearer Riders are going to smash through. The Marauders on the other side there, they've got nothing that even comes close to being as elite as our troops, so they're just going to get flattened. And if you have very elite cavalry like this, these like smashy heavy cavalry, and all the enemy has is just something like your normal run-of-the-mill, like Marauders or Empire Swordsmen, it's very, very easy just going to smash them to pieces without really losing too much in return. Here's our foes for this battle. Brave but foolish. The chieftain himself, one of many. And they are absolutely content on letting us walk over here to them, so we are going to advance slowly. Vigor is actually quite important, so when you are able to, you should walk your units. When I'm in my normal campaigns and not doing a cinematic one, I don't tend to worry about it so much, but here we'll be doing as min-maxy as possible, so we're marching on into combat. Slow and steady wins the race. Like I said, we have Tsar Guard up front, and then the pistols on the outskirts a little ways behind them. The idea being we can use the pistols to shoot the Marauder Horsemen, and then once these Marauders do close the gap, they should all surround the Tsar Guard, who can easily handle that many Marauders, and just let the Warbearer Riders and pistols feast from there.
Kislev endures, no matter what this day brings.
No matter what this day may bring. Urkulisk, a very tall lad, isn't he? A whole head and shoulders above even the the tallest of our Tzar Guard.
We are the wall. They are nothing.
Absolutely adore the different halberds and the pole arms that our Warbear Riders have. I would love to see maybe something where if we get spells on them, or if you're able to give them kind of ice blades at some point. I might be playing too much Age of Wonders, where I'm wanting my weapons and armor to change as we go on. But
This freeze may slow our blade arms.
no, you'll be fine. You're well used to this kind of cold. Our Marauder friends are doing nothing, so we'll actually just go ahead and speed up a bit, as there's a little bit of posturing going on. And by now I realize, okay, our Warbear Riders can easily smash this front line. Let's let the AI learn a bit of the same. Just walk them and I'm trying to give the Marauder Horseman a target too, is the idea. If I'm a Marauder, I'm getting very concerned. Alright, so they're going to turn and try to run away from the lads. You'll see a lot of this in our early game tier. There's lots of repositioning because they know they're going to have a bad time facing off against a Warbear and Boris combo. Now see, the bears are just in for a fake. They're trying to draw your men in. We've got lads now moving up on either side themselves. We are keeping one of the Pistoliers back to attack these guys as they try to come to the forest. So given the attack order on the Pistoliers to hunt down these skirmish cav. But when javelins come screaming through, they miss their mark, of course. Having a hard time getting actually lined up for a shot as they go for a flank. Warbear Riders slamming into the front line. We'll actually slow things down a bit, as it's gonna get real spicy real quick. The bears are hungry, and there's a lot of Marauders to feast on. Right in behind the bears are going to be the Tzar Guard charging in with their scimitars raised, and just in case you were wondering where they're from from Kislev. Yeah, their shields say it. So Warbears are disrupting the front line, and then the Tzar Guard can rush in and stab people in the back, and we'll pull the Warbears through to hopefully not lose any models. Over here we've got the Axes of Erengrad, or with one of our Kossars, trying their best to pursue, but skirmish cavalry being very skirmishy. We have them coming out of the woods too. Pistols tearing through that line. Javelins coming in return. So they're trying to surround the one unit, but dual pistol set, and we're going to bring some of the Warbear Riders hopefully through to chase them off. Tzar Guard easily handling Marauders in a frontal fight. It's nothing but fallen Marauder bodies here to start here. Heads are going for a Dark Souls double swing, so you always gotta watch out for that one. It's the slightly delayed double swing. He is dueling like a champion against their leader. Him and Urkelis working together to rip apart that front line. And now that there's a lot of Marauders fleeing, we can basically just drag our terror-causing bears through to scare the rest off in. Not too much worry here. I think I bounced off the camera. You'll see these skirmishers keep coming back, but we are going to just have our pistols sit there and defend against them. For the early game here, our Kossar's job is to very angrily stare at horsemen. And with the Duke of Retreat, the Norskins are done. Urkelis and Boris are going to pursue the chieftain here, but he's actually just fast enough while retreating that he will be able to live to fight another day. Well, so he thinks. After that glorious battle is a good time to jump back on in here, where we can go ahead and assign our skill points. We're in actually go. I think Boris received a little bit of a rework in the last Kislev update, so I'll just go through his unique skills and then show you what we are giving him. So he's got Stout-Hearted at rank 12, which gives us a heap of extra hit points and battle healing cap. Fearless Fighter is immunity to psychology for Boris himself and 24 bonus view large. Brother of Bears is extra recruit rank for Warbear Riders for all armies faction wide. 10% more weapon strength for all Warbear Riders and Elemental Bears for his army only. And then 12 more bonus versus large for all the same for his army only, which makes them very, very good at dueling with just about anything. Band of Brutes is going to be giving you 20 more armor for Tzar Guard, and then 8 bonus V infantry for all of your Tzar Guard units, making the Great Sword ones very, very adept at chopping through infantry. They forget 14 base, so that just adds in together and becomes monstrous. With the Great Reclaimer, after Stout-Hearted giving you extra population surplus for newly captured settlements, and then 10% more movement range. And then as one with Ursun gives us Glorious Charge for the entire army, which means charge bonus duration will be doubled. And then enemy units are going to be taking a leadership penalty as if they've been attacked in the flank all the time. So it's going to be bad news bears when the Tzar Guards, or the Red Tsar's units arrive. It's only for his army, of course, but still makes him a monster. Charge bonus is normally 10 seconds, this will just double it up to 20. We've got 4 more base weapon damage as well for a little bit more oomph. He's got Heroic Resilience, which I think all of your heroes have. Erskine is going to be our legendary mount there. He actually has a heap of stats added on in. It's 1700 health too. Pretty nice. We've got Resettler at rank 6, which will give us more growth in all provinces, and then eliminate colonization cost faction-wide for all ruins, which is awesome. Elemental Regeneration will give a regeneration, of course, to all of our Elemental Bear units, making them heal, but have a little bit more of a weakness to fire, which I think these guys already do have. Oh no, they removed it. Or it never existed, and I'm crazy. We've got the Grand Builder here at rank 18, which will give us a construction cost reduction for the local province he's in, as well as a time reduction for garrison and religion buildings, as long as he is there too. Lastly, we have Khan King. Versus the Red, the greatest of Kislev's rulers, commands respect from those wishing to treat with the Frozen Kingdom for common cause. Gives more allegiance points gained for all alliances with Kislev. A greater allowance in tier differences between the Orthodoxy and the Ice Court before penalties are applied, which means I think he's supposed to have... So you're able to have more Orthodoxy support than Ice Court without having any issues with the Ice Court. And then you have extra oblations with all Kislevite factions, more devotion in whatever province he's in, and then it drops enemy leadership by 7. Any leadership drops are something we're going to be trying to focus on aggressively. He also has Colossal Strike, which I don't think he used to have. That's just 16 more bonus V large, and then a pretty nice 25% weapon damage bonus. Boris is a monster. At rank 7, we will have a quest for the Shard Blade, which is Corruption, Recruitment Cost Reduction, Melee Attack, 12 more bonus V large, and then the Shard Blade abilities. We can blast... Oh, is it in? So his is not the same as Catarin's. His is a area that is going to damage and slow, so it's like a extra potent Flock of Doom. And then the Armor of Ursun we will get at rank 10, which will give us 10 more armor, less hero success chance for enemy heroes, less wound recovery time, 8 more melee defense, and then the passive Armor of Ursun, where whenever we drop below 50% health, we'll get more damage and more melee attack. Once you have both those items, you become the Red Tsar's attire, which is going to allow you to recruit enemy armies for cheaper, which is actually not bad as long as we do have some allies still left in the world. Alright, for Boris then, we'll go ahead and apply... I quite like Heroic Resilience, but we need the extra movement. 5% more movement range. Over here for Urkalisk, we shall give you the ability to replenish us up faster, and then we'll go through Ursun's Roar into Salyak's Lullaby for the healing. Urskun, the Healing Patriarch. Once the dead and captured Norskins had been ritually sacrificed in great pyres to Daj, scouts were sent ahead to assess the defenses of the Sarl encampment, just south of Boris's position. A paltry defensive garrison stood on watch, likely a small raiding party that had set up a larger, more permanent encampment before launching attacks on unsuspecting villages in the outermost oblasts. Word was sent back to Ursun's forest to request more warriors to assist in assaulting the Sarl stronghold, and by the next morning, 2 units worth of hardy Kossars had arrived. Armed and guarded with hunting bows and equipment, these would be men well suited to a variety of violence, as the Sarl garrison would soon discover. Boris wasted no time organizing the men the moment the reinforcements arrived. He was giving the Dogs of Chaos no time to plan a defense of their own. For unbeknownst to us, Urkalisk had been sent in the dead of night, with a small contingent to harass and enrage the Sarl garrison, hurling arrows, insults, and Kislevite battle prayers over the ramshackle palisade. Patrols were picked off where possible, fighters set, all with the goal of exhausting the garrison, both mentally and physically. As our fully rested force crested the snow-capped hill overlooking the camp, A warning horn blasted from somewhere on the walls, and we can see the worn out and clearly disorganized bunch streaming from the gates in an awkward attempt at a sally. To our flank, Urkalisk's unit emerged from the nearby tree line and stepped back into line stoically. Battle was upon us. Alright, I return once more for the pre-battle screen here. We are going to hand out the Gleaming Pendant to Boris himself and face off against this warrior, Chieftain Barden. Sorry, fool. It's the pyre for you. Brave sons of Kislev, it's our first battle against an actual proper settlement, although they are, of course, sallying out to face us, so we are in pretty much the same setup as last time. However, this time, we have a couple of Kossars for the back with their bows. How exciting. A little bit more pokey damage as the enemy approaches. We're going to kind of move up alongside this ridge here. And it looks like the AI is going to go for the same. Trying to set up in a bit of a way that, honestly, looks like they're learning from us. I'm not sure what this sound keeps being. Are you doing something here, sir? Is that the sound of rage increasing? Very magical. Fair enough. They've got the rage, we've got the axes. So off the beginning, once again, I'm going to see if they will advance towards us. There's no reason to, especially when you have missile advantage, no reason to advance on the enemy unless they basically force you to. Alright, hang on, I haven't seen, this is like a full-on cleave. I need one of these for my weapon collection. Weapon collection grows. So they are just going to readjust a little bit. We will speed things up and start advancing towards them, walking. No, of course they haven't. This army being a little bit smaller than the last, but it does have more dangerous units, I would say, than the skirmish cavalry in the throwing axes here. Throwing axemen can be real mean. However, it looks like they're berserkers. They're definitely not. They're just good armor-piercing axe throwers. And then Barodin. Covering up his face in shame, but not his tummy window. Come on, Boris. These guys are waiting for us. Trying to use the rock as cover themselves. However, we have much higher range. They can just focus in on these hunters and get rid of them in a hurry. We've got the counter to everything here. Let your loyalty be your arm. We'll see how well by now you all are dealing with my horrible Kislev accent. Listen, I've been practicing it, but it's rudimentary at best. Push these guys out of the way. Excuse me, Reginald. Urkalisk and I are going to take to the front lines, please. Kislevites and the Norskins square up. The Norskins still uninterested in moving, so we will make the first move. Warbears charge in, same as last time, to kind of distract. And make the enemy think we're going for a charge on their front lines. We are definitely not. We'll step right inside of range, or outside of range, rather, for their throwing axes. That's actually just about the only thing they have over there that can deal damage to our Warbears. And now we charge. Archers will be going after the throwing axes to start, and then the axes of Varengrad over here will be focusing on these skirmish cav. Leading the men. Oh, he's giving himself a weird neck twinge while he does so. Warmere riders make their charge, trying to avoid the spears where we can. Just slam into them, normal marauders. There's no hope in defending against that. Zargard clash with the front line, and the throwing axes try their hand. They're down to about half health in a couple of volleys. So they got no choice but to run up into the melee. Our Zargard will obliterate them. Boris going for the enemy lord, who is singled in on Urkalisk, running for his life. Boris the chieftain, I guess. You stabbed Boris? A betrayer. Warbears have obliterated this flank. The pistols have knocked out the poor skirmish cabs. They tried to flank round 2. It's a mass rout already. It's a no-skin round now. Pistol shots finishing off a couple as they run. As soon as they do break contact too, they're completely in range and away from our warbears. Oh yeah, that's the stuff there. Few more of the Marauders regain their loyalties and their bravery, and they charge back in. Only to realize that, oh, that's a lot of bears. Throw a couple of axes in. One more volley should turn them into pincushions and convince them that fighting's not for them. And they're gonna Naruto run right on out of here. That's another glorious victory for Kislev. And like that, our healers have learned of new ways to keep our casualties from being actual proper casualties. So extra replenishment rate by 3% and more growth. So next, we are going to immediately just go ahead and grab cold storage to give us even more replenishment rate and more growth. And from there, we'll find ourselves a new path. Another glorious victory in the name of Ursun. The fallen will be honored in song all across the Oblast once word reaches. But our task is far from complete. Boris has explained his campaign against the Sarl needs to be swift and brutal blitz. For not only do they control the entire Bay of Blades, but also claim a vast swath of the Biolands to the west of Troll Country. This offense obviously cannot be allowed to stand, but we must be cautious in our approach. For not only are we surrounded on all sides by corrupted Northmen, but we have lost contact with all scouts sent north towards what we had believed to be Dwarf territory. And there are disturbing reports of an ungodly tentacled behemoth at the fore of a Fimir war host. While the men drank and celebrate their victory, Boris was hard at work planning the next assault. Following the battle, common Kislevite warriors, farmers and laborers mostly, streamed into the camp, armed with makeshift pole axes and hammers, and wearing only the clothes on their backs. They were a grim reminder of the cost of survival in the harsh motherland. These men would fight and die well for Kislev, and Boris would put them to good use. Dawn soon rose, and the order was given to move out. It would be a 2 days march to the port hovels the Sarl used to launch naval raids on Kislevite and Nordlander territory, and we would need to make good time to outpace any Northmen reinforcements that might be on the way. Ursun must have sped our steps, however, as the journey was quite uneventful outside of a few Kossars starting a fistfight or some spilled kvass. Boris's advanced scouts arrived back just as the port town came into view, and reported a force no larger than the last. Would we be so lucky? There was only the briefest moment to ponder on this, as the battle horn reverberated across the land. The Sarl had taken notice and begun to pour from the gate, eager for a fight. Boris raised his shard blade in challenge, and the battle was on. And welcome on in, everyone, to the battle. We are here just a little ways in, kind of skipped a bit of the posturing as our Warbear riders advance. We are using a bit of this, pretty much the exact same formation as previous, except for this time now we've got Kislevite warriors in the front line with our Tzar guards. They will be the ones that are hopefully gathering up all the enemies, either them or the Tzar guard, and then the axes, or the pistols and the bows can start blasting in from there. The same as last time, our Warbears have been sent forward to stir up trouble. This unit has replaced their chieftain with another squad of, I guess, Norscan pikes, so let's see how that goes for them.
We need food first!
We need food first and stoves. What about lead? We've got plenty of that. Lots of the side. A couple of the shots are going wide into the trees. Warbears and Zargard, though, charge in together as they do. Pretty much immediately plating this unit. The White Warriors are I'd say much more squishy than our current units we've been fighting with, so we will lose more of them for sure. Currently, I love Norse bodies. Both sets of axemen are defeated. Warbears took a little bit of damage to basically the direct fire shots from those throwing axes. The front line's already broken. Bo's weakening the flank, which is now already decided to go, and that is the mass rout. A very fast battle. The Norskins just learning they are not the protagonists here in this campaign. Alright, did you say more skill points? Let's go ahead and throw this into... Devotion's actually pretty useful here with the Tzar. That way we can build up the devotion we need to actually start utilizing these invocations. So yeah, now we're going to go ahead and grab some Disciplinarian. Same thing with Urgalisk. We're going to go ahead and snag the Lullaby of Salyak, giving us a 3-time use of a 0.8% heal. And there is no maximum amount of units that can be hit by this, so if you blob everyone up together, you can heal your entire army in one go. It's fantastic for healing after the battle, or just as you're initially charging in. So, Salyak's Lullaby for Urgalisk, because he is the ancient wielder of healing. When we've got ourselves our first event, the Church and State. The unique strengths of the Ice Court and the Great Orthodoxy shall be key to Kislev prevailing over its looming threats. Yet, as you cultivate support from either side, you must be wary that stability is best maintained through balance. An upcoming public address presents the opportunity to show your loyalists your loyalties one way or another, or not. To reveal your hand may be beneficial, but it can also be the first step towards splintering these bipartisan lands. We can either lean towards the court and gain extra Ice Court support per turn for 10 turns and gain 2 boons right now, or lean towards the Orthodoxy, which we are absolutely going to do, giving us the Orthodoxy supported, so we get even more support that way, more devotion for all of our provinces, and then 2 boons there, which we will then immediately use in our legacy. We've got Duty's Reward, giving us 100% experience gain when facing off against the forces of chaos, and replenishing a little bit of our movement after winning a battle, so we can sack and then go back in for another attack to get a double up our experience gain from those battles. So we are immediately going to grab the old foes. Excellent. We can view our active effects at any time over here. Orsun, Salyak, Daj, and Thor be praised. Another town liberated from the claws of chaos. Our Patriarch Urgalisk and the Orthodoxy attendants have been hard at work purging the corruptive influence from the land, and have sanctified both captured villages with new Kislevite names. The Orthodoxy camp, which doesn't yet have the infrastructure to even be called a village yet, just a small shrine to the Pantheon, and the Altar of the Bear. The previous raiding wharf has been repurposed into something more resembling a small boatyard of the motherland, and Boris is keen to send diplomats across the sea to establish trade and gather information from the Empire. Though our reclamation force started with nothing but hardened warriors, we now oversee several villages, and must balance the prosperity of our new subjects with our crusade against chaos. There are abandoned cinnabar mines, built by Kislevites at a time long past, just waiting to be reclaimed, that would bring a much-needed boost to our treasury. First, though, there will be the bloody work of conquering Ormfell, provincial capital for the Bay of Blades, by right of being the largest gathering of Sarl for many leagues. All raiding parties would wind up back here to drop off their spoils and pay tribute to the Jarl. The current Jarl was Hama Thainthrost, and not much was actually known about this chieftain. He was a monstrous hulk of muscle, cunning, and hate, as most chieftains were, but his actual skill set and abilities were a mystery. This seemed to bother Boris little, and he busied himself with siege preparations. 2 new regiments of Kossars were drilled and given rations. Scouts were sent on ahead to assess weak points and garrison strength, and Urgalisk led the men in battle preparation via prayer and other orthodoxy rituals. As watches were set and the men turned in for the night, a bloody and ragged Kossar blazed into camp on horseback, as if a troop of Slanesh demons trailed him. He died later that night from his wounds, but not before giving a whispered warning that the Dark Ones had left their swamps. These news had greatly troubled Boris, who ordered a speedy departure from town the next morning, with a hard day and night's march to Ormfell without rest. To my surprise, there wasn't a grumble amongst our troops, and they bore the grueling journey without a sign of discomfort. We arrived on the outskirts of Ormfell early in the morning, covering a great distance relatively quickly. But there had been cost. Plowing recklessly through chaos-infested lands is always an infestation of misfortune, and our band was harried the entire journey by small skirmishing groups of Sarl and other unmarked tribesmen, as we moved through a swirling mist that seemed to cling to everything, and followed our party until we reached the relative border of Ormfell. A quick count showed that around 50 men had been lost in the mists, from elite Tzar guard to Kislevite warrior. No unit had been spared, aside from the Bear Riders, whose mounts were fearsome enough to keep any would-be assassins at bay. These losses had only stoked the fires of vengeance in the heart of Boris, and he quickly called the men to form up for the march on the Sarl Stronghold. Boris stood at the fore, bellowing challenges to Hama to face him directly. While the Northmen on the walls returned his shouts with demonic fervor, the chieftain did not show himself. So the so-called champion of our people is little more than a cowardly pup. Boris roared across the field. No quarter, brave Kislevites, for Ursun! Alright, brave sons and daughters of Kislev, we are here for a proper siege, or at least as proper of a siege as Norskins can attain outside their own inside their own territory. They don't have any walls, of course. We are going to be assaulting a unwalled major settlement. I guess this is counting as a minor settlement, isn't it? Or Norskins. They don't get to build. Main damage we're going to have to be worrying about here in this battle is going to be the throwing axes, 2 units of great axe warriors, and then they have some berserkers here this time. So it'll be slow and steady here, and we will easily win. The second we start rushing is the second we lose. As brave uncle, we must go ahead and send the Warbear Riders around this time, because there's no reason to have them going charging directly into the front. They're putting up as many barriers as they can, of course. Dealing with some of our new enemies here with the Great Axe Marauders. Bringing some Armor Piercing Punch. And then the Berserkers back here, who have a ton of attack stats and are very, very good anti-infantry infantry. Not so good, though, if you sit there and shoot them to pieces, which is what we're going to try to do. Tzar is definitely outranged the Norskins, so we can just be very rude and kind of slowly push up, turning their poor people into pincushions. Either learn how to block with that shield, or you will die in the streets. If these guys don't have any shields, there's going to be lots of lads in the streets. Death, glorious death. I'm glad we could provide what you so wish. Warbear Riders charging here from the side now that the enemies are a little bit weakened. And they are off of their platforms too, so we're going to give them a nice charge with the Warbears. Brother Bear slams into the throwing axes. As the normal Marauders are, they're leaving. Bold strategy. That's a half health already for their throwing axes, meaning they're going to be pretty much useless for the rest of the battle. Meanwhile, the rest of the troops advancing slowly into position. Fighting new firing arcs or arc hussars. And they can fire it mainly into the great axes since they have the armor piercing damage and not any shields to defend themselves. One of the things you will notice about Warbears is they do get actually caught up in combat pretty easily, especially by any heavier duty infantry. So they aren't just like a end-all be-all, kind of like Juggernauts are. You do have to be more careful with them. The light shower of arrows. Very good for them. Already down to half health, just with the repeat volleys. Boris and the others have not even had to make it in yet. We could just sit here and shoot them all day. There's really no reason to move in. They've got Berserkers advancing, and then there's skirmish calves too. We are sending the bears and one of the Kislevite warriors round to capture this zone and stop the tower from firing on us. Their frontal forces are already haggard and looking to run. Berserkers think they can now move through the bullets. Similar to that raid on Area 51, they think if they Naruto run, they can move faster than bullets and arrows. Oh look, it's an Hercules and a Boris. You guys are duped. Well, Urculus got shot right in the back by one of our guys. We can definitely see that's an arrow, sir. Whoever that was, you were in trouble. Yeah, Boris and Urculus can rip through there, no problem. Zargard making it into the front lines, now getting javelins stuck at them. It's never a fun time. The shields are doing a good job of absorbing them for now. At least my Zargard know how to actually have to use their shields. Single file line of axemen. Interesting. And Berserkers fighting against arrows, and two of the elites of Kislev got absolutely flattened. Warriors come on in to deliver some killer blows with those makeshift pole weapons. But now they do have great axes to deal with, which is a bit more of a problem for us. Some warriors are going to fall in that fight, for sure. Forest, though, following the boys in. Then a secondary line of marauders hoping to fill in the gaps. This is the captain for the force. They are meeting Zargard. Oh no, these are the normal armored crossars. Those axes out, boys. There's questions to ask. While Zargard and Warbear Riders working together to wipe out any of the remaining skirmishers. We've got some warriors holding the line against 2 units. You see that I've lost my micro a little bit here as our Warbear Riders just stand there and get charged by some marauders. That's unfortunate to see. Just turns kind of nonchalantly and obliterates a few of them. Yeah, that would have been great for our side had we actually gotten the charge, but we didn't this time. Warbears over here, though, are rampaging through missile troops, no problem. Urculus, Boris, and the warriors are winning this fight also. Big chop. You can go for the double swing. You lads don't even... I've never seen that matched animation. More of that, Boris. Urculus is going to take a moment to rest. You'll be back, will you? That's all I need to hear to send my troops after you. As you can see on this side, our warbears and warriors are having a little bit of trouble. So we've sent our other warbears around. They've gotten a little bogged down. I was going to try to have them pull through and hit these guys, but they got caught in with the javelin men for a moment. Zargard trudging behind them means that the javelins have no chance. And now we're driving the skirmishers towards our other warbears, which is right into the open jaws of the Wampa. Got a couple arrows firing over the top for reinforcements too, but that's going to do probably more harm than good into our own because the light warriors with their very low armor. However, that's the white flag. Noah's break and run for the hills.
Do not disgrace us!
We've already been disgraced by your chieftain Hama, fled before the battle even started. The battle was brutal, yet decisive. Our warriors fought with the ferocity of the bear himself, and outright slaughtered the defenders of Ormsfell. Already the fallen Northmen were being cleared from the streets, buildings repaired, and the desecrated Orthodoxy chapel torn down to bless the land, and drive out any corruption that had been leaching through its rotten timbers. In time, crops would grow in these cracked lands again, but more warriors would first be needed to see that dream come to pass. Word was now sent to every corner of the Bay of Blades. Join our crusade. Join the Red Tzar in taking back your homes. And so now we wait. Boris and his small council discuss our next moves. The Sarl have been driven from the Bay, but still have a stronghold in the Biolands. The scaling tribe test our western border, and our encounter with the Fimir in the wetlands of Ormskaro, all topics of elaborate discussion. For now, I'll take the rare opportunity to rest, and put this journal down for a moment. And that is going to be all for this first episode here for our Boris narrative campaign. Our first conquest of our foes here, the Sarl, has been accomplished. Now we need to look ahead. We've got a few more foes around here, so we'll be deciding on what to strike at next. Go ahead and leave in the comments what path you think our story should take from here. Where should we be going? What should we be recruiting? I'd love to hear from you, and we'll see if your suggestion makes it on into the story. So thank you all so much for all the support and for stopping on by this very first episode here. If you've made it this far into the video, please remember to leave it a like for the like god and a sub for the sub though, and I'll see you all in the next one.